Hello and welcome to On the Clock, presented by WorkStream. If you care about hiring, managing, and paying hourly workers, this is the podcast for you. I'm Daniel Blazer, and today we're clocking in with Scott Taylor. Scott has quite the resume, including president and CEO of Walk-On Sports Bistreaux and COO at Beef O'Brady's. We discuss how he successfully scaled both restaurants he was in charge of, what a good relationship between franchisors and franchisees looks like, and how to instill an awesome culture in restaurant employees. He also talks about his current position as an adjunct professor at the University of Florida and more. Enjoy. Scott, it's so nice to have you here. I'm really excited to learn from you and get a little bit more info about your background and experience. So why don't we just kick off with that, a little bit about what you're currently up to and then where you came from.
I just wrapped up, I think, an amazing 12 and a half year run with Walk-On Sports Bistreaux here in Baton Rouge. So I met the guys, the two former walk-ons. So the name actually comes from these guys being walk-ons on the LSU basketball team. So I met these two walk-ons back in 2010. We had two walk-ons restaurants. We had Schlitz and Giggles pizzerias. We had Happy's Irish Pub. We had nightclubs, bars, all this other stuff. And met them through a mutual friend. And it was kind of funny when I came up. It was like these guys had amazing brands, and she's like, "Hey, I'm working with these guys in Louisiana. I've gotten food poisoning twice at their restaurant. Will you kind of come up and help me with the food safety program?" I'm like, "Sure." So and I'll talk. Prior to that, I was with a brand called Beef O'Brady's. We had sold to private equity, so I had this time, where I was riding my bike like every day and realized I really don't like riding a bike. Like this whole take a month or two off thing wasn't my gig. So, 3 weeks into it, I get this call, boom, I'm in Baton Rouge that Monday. So it kind of started there. And I've always worked with entrepreneurs, and these guys were not franchisors. They had, like I said, multiple brands, owned them. And there were some opportunities, and it was refreshing because typically founders, I don't say typically, but a lot of times they're just, hey, it's my baby, man. I appreciate your opinion. And they're like, dude, we just want to be great, man. If you can help us get better. And it was just refreshing and humbling. And so I spent some time getting to know them and help them. And Baton Rouge did not make the top 500 places I thought I'd ever move to in my life from Tampa. Going to school at University of Florida. This is tiger country. So they don't like gators and what you're thinking. But, a couple of months in, I brought my wife and 5 and 6 year old, 4 and 5 year old kids up here and said, "Hey, what do you think of Louisiana?" They're like, "We love it." And I'm like, "Oh my God, so we're moving." So that's where the journey began for walk-ons. And we just started doing crazy stuff. Opened, these two restaurants here in Baton Rouge. Early on, nickname was Wait-Ons, Walkouts. They just had some opportunities, kind of really collectively as a team got together, got some great insights on how to make the food better. Opened a $7.5, almost $8 million restaurant in Lafayette, Louisiana in early 2011 as a restaurant, not a bar. Totally changed mindset. And that's really where I think that walk-on culture started, was in that Valentine's Day 2011. And then in September of the same year, we opened in New Orleans with an even better menu. Both cities, we were voted number one sports bar. No. Number one new restaurant in New Orleans, number one new restaurant Lafayette. We'd never won a food award prior to that for the brand. So in New Orleans was a big deal. And then early 2012, we found out we were one of 1,000 finalists for number one sports bar in America. We had 4 locations. We don't think that's going to happen, from ESPN of all things, right? So, we're 1,000, we're in the top 100. I'm like, man, that's cool. We should get a little logo that says top 100, and then 12-5, and then we won. And it was crazy. And the write-up basically was, they couldn't believe the quality of the food, family friendly, didn't serve chicken wings, all this stuff. So, fast forward, that was a great evolution of that brand. Drew Brees, good partner, or good customer, honestly. He kind of saw what we were doing, invested with us in 2015. And we launched a franchise program in the end of 2015. And so, what I think is great about the story is that I had franchise experience prior coming in, and we did some amazing things, and we did some things that weren't so amazing. Drew was a franchisee with Jimmy John's, and there's things he loved and he didn't love. And we said, we're going to do it, man. Let's do it right. Let's be transparent on supply chain. If they give us marketing dollars, let's actually spend it on marketing. If we're going to, say we're going to do stuff, let's do it. And we spent a lot of time, effort, and money building this infrastructure on the front end, where I think we opened restaurant number 8, and we had like 35 people on our staff. It was just like ridiculously over prepared, but we knew we had something if we did it right. And so that's what kind of grew the brand, and brought a great private equity partner in 2020, joined us to continue the growth. And so, my time there at 12 and a half years, I wanted to leave before 13 because I didn't like that number. And then both my kids last summer decided they both were going to leave Louisiana and go to school out of state. One at University of Florida, one at Florida State. And I'm like, it's like my last summer as a dad, where I can spend time with my kids while they live with me versus coming to visit. So worked it out where I could leave a little early. And so, the last 6-7 months, big part of that, family time, being a dad, going back and forth, parents weekend, all this stuff. But I've had a really awesome opportunity just to meet founders that want to franchise, people that want to grow their business. I'm a franchise guy. I've been in it 20 years. I love it. I love the model when it's done right. And unfortunately, there's sometimes it's not done right. But just talking to people about how to structure that, right? So, prior to coming to Baton Rouge, we had a brand called Beef O'Brady's Family Sports Pub. So I've been in the sports bar business for 20 years. And we had a brand that we acquired from the founder, who's kind of maybe didn't follow all the FTC rules, and there was cocktail napkin agreements, not franchise agreements. And so there was this process where, the two guys that really acquired had to clean it up. But we got into it, put the systems in place, and grew it from 30 to 276 in 8 years, and then exited with a private equity firm. And, we did some really awesome things. I think we probably grew too fast certain times. If you go back and look, real estate bubble in 2008 was kind of rough on those types of brands. So, and then, I've just kind of been in the restaurant biz. I never intended. I think most people, that are in the restaurant industry, if you ask them, hey man, like, is this what you dreamed of doing when you were a little kid? And like, most are going to say no. And if you did, your parents like questioned every little aspect of that. I wanted to be an attorney. I was going to law school. I'd taken else. I was going to go to law school, and I got offered an assistant manager job at a restaurant. And I needed a break. And, 30 years later, it was a super long break. I never went back. So that's kind of my story. But I've always been in restaurants. Franchise side, like I said, I think it's just an amazing opportunity to, work with a brand and a founder who you're kind of buying into the years of mistakes and learnings of somebody that's hopefully going to give you a better chance of being successful in that business by buying into a franchise. So,
yeah, well, that's awesome. What a cool background. And I have a couple of kind of follow-up questions based on some of the stuff you said. But one of the things that, you mentioned that you think, franchising can just be really awesome, but you said when it's done right. I would love to hear what, in your mind, like what is a franchise done right versus one that's not?
Yeah. So, if you're a franchisor, it can look like this amazing way to like quick money, right? Oh my God, we got a cool brand. Let's just sign up everybody. And you see these press releases sometimes just sold, 50 locations, this and that. I'm like, oh my God, like 50 locations. Opening one is a lot. How are you going to get the other 49 done? And like, so I think sometimes you see either maybe giving too much territory away. And then sometimes just like putting people in situations where they're really not the right fit for the brand, but you're trying to get a deal done. And I look at it, man, it's a marriage. It's like a partnership. It's like, I think as a franchisor, it's half you, half them. It's half my responsibility to tell you, like, listen, you're a good dude. I like you, but this is not the business for you. And it's like, it's harder than you think. And in the sports bar business, it looks sexy from a bar stool looking in. There's a lot of moving parts. And it's like, we're open 7 days a week. There's inventory, you got all these team members. And so I think when it's not done right, it's kind of like make it seem like it's seamless and it's going to be so awesome. And even if you're not skirting an item 19 and making an earnings claim, you can make things seem seamless. Where I've always felt like man, I want to put every potential obstacle in front of you of what could happen, right? And then like, are you really prepared to do this? Let's think about what your lifestyle is going to be like in 6 months. Are you willing to work on the weekends if you're going to own or operate this thing? Because that's when you normally out with your friends. Well, guess what? They're going to, but you're working. You're off Monday, Tuesday now. Is that fit? Why are you getting into it? Is it purely just financial returns? Restaurants in particular, very risky. Like there's other safer things to invest money in. Do you like me? Do I like you? I think it's, there's so much to the relationship and trust. I think some people call it discovery day, some people call it orientation, whatever. But like, man, that is like the moment in time where somebody's making a life-changing decision and you are the steward of helping them make a great life-changing decision. And sometimes it's freaking the best decision for them and you. But other times I feel like, if it's done right, you're like, listen, this brand is probably not right for you. And it's not that you're not a great person and won't do things, but like, I'd rather save you and protect you from maybe getting to something that's a little bigger than you should, bite off.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. One other question based on kind of what you were saying before that I wanted to ask, with walk-ons and then Beef O'Brady's, I believe was the other. So with both of those, you kind of were there during a period of growth and scaling. And one of the things that, I talk a lot with people is like, one of the biggest challenges when you're scaling restaurants is getting the right people and hiring them and, building that like customer service oriented workforce and everything. What was your experience like on the hiring side, on the people side? Like, how did you make sure that you had the right people in place that complemented the scaling goals that you had?
100%, man. So like, Beef O'Brady's days, I was team member number 5. I think we had 55 when we exited. Walk-ons, it was, I think, team member number 4. If you count the founders, I think it was maybe 5 of the founders. So we really didn't have much. And it's kind of like you've got to, number one, you got to have a mission, vision, purpose, and a culture. And culture is so important. I think it's the number one deal because people you have to share the same values. You have to share the same beliefs of how you look at things and how you think about people. And so, someone told me a long time ago, it's like, never let the need get in front of the vision, and sometimes you'll panic hire because you need them, and always tried to hire ahead, always tried to assimilate as much as I could to really understand that person. See if they're a good culture fit. I'm a horrible golfer, but like if I was unsure, I was like, man, take that person golfing, see what they do. Cause like people show their true colors and they're slamming like golf clubs and you're like, ooh, he doesn't handle stress well. Right. So, but I think it's don't let the need get in front of the vision. The second part is that culture, articulate it, make sure that people believe in it. And sports analogy or not, I think if you can create a culture where people feel like they're bigger than something, that they're part of something bigger than themselves, it's an amazing place to be, right? Because it's like playing a sport, and people will outperform their skill set when they believe they're in that environment. So it's hard to hire the right people, but when you go back and focus on culture, focus on people, create a path. I said, I've always liked the generalist kind of training concept because I want you to be able to flex into any situation and at least understand it. You're not going to be the marketing person long term, but if you're in a meeting, at least you understand what they do. You might be the supply chain guy, or you might be the training person or whatever. Just everybody appreciating what everybody does, everybody knowing we can't do it without everybody, like all those things kind of, I guess it all goes back to team and sports and things, but not because of sports bar side. I just think that's how it works, right? So, and take your time, don't rush,
So one other question I had about that is, you talk about the importance of building culture and only being, everyone being bought in on the same mission, stuff like that. How do you, I feel like that's one challenge when it comes to within the franchise or like the corporate environment, right? How do you translate that? Like, say you've got a really great culture and you feel great about that team, but now you want that to percolate down to every single server and every single bartender, whatever it is. How do you kind of bridge that gap between, the corporate culture that is positive and the day-to-day, like in the restaurant or in the sports bar culture?
No doubt. So, I mean, it starts at the top. You got to live it, breathe it every day. I think that there's a great book by Cheryl Batchelder called Dare to Serve. She was the CEO of Popeye's Chicken and Biscuits many years ago when it was kind of a dumpster fire and the franchisees were suing the franchisor and everybody hated each other. And she really came in with, and she had not been a successful executive. So I think she may have been the last pick for that job, that she turned out to be a rock star. Probably always was, but she changed the mindset of servant leadership. And like, if you're the franchisor, your customer is the franchisee. Everything you do, every bit of work you do, you think about how it impacts the franchisee first, and you serve the franchisee. You live and die by their success. From that, you say, listen, your customer is your management team. Your management team's customers are their teammates. The teammates' customer is the person ordering the 2-piece chicken with the red beans and a biscuit. And so if everybody kind of believes that, and it really does percolate down. And then I think you have to have that glass full. There is no glass half full. If it's half full, you suck. You're a bad server. You should have filled it. It's glass full mentality that we're just always looking for awesome things, man. And like you can look down, you can look this way, but I'm freaking looking for wins. I'm hanging skins, and you celebrate that. And like people want to work with winners. People want to work with people that believe what they believe. And so if you celebrate all that stuff with franchisees, with the team, their team, your team, it just makes people want it more. It's like it's craving not the spotlight, because that's ego, but I think like just, strong accountability creates strong recognition, accountability to create teams that just will fight and bust through a wall, to do anything for you. Like walk-ons, it was like protect the W. It was all about that, right? And B for Brady's, it was like, there's no luck in being Irish, man. It was like, we're here for a reason. And like, let's just, we serve a market, and just people bought into it.
Yeah, I love that. One question I wanted to make sure we got to is your experience as an adjunct professor. I was looking at
it's kind of cool. Huh?
Yeah, definitely. So, I believe you're at the University of Florida. Yep. What has that experience been like, and what have you enjoyed most about that?
So it has been honestly one of the coolest things I've ever done. So I went to school there. It's a wicked hard school to get into now. So I'm like, I don't know how. I mean, I got in way under the curve. I don't think they checked my GPA when they asked me to be an adjunct professor, but hopefully no one at UF's listening. It is, so I've been on an advisory board there for a little while and just getting to meet students and like, hey man, will you teach this online class, food and beverage management? I'm like, sure. I got 25 students. I'm like, so I'm thinking like, how do I make this fun and engaging? And online sucks, and so like, what's really cool is that, first of all, like just to see the talented people that want to get in this industry today just blows me away. It's like humbling and an honor to actually teach these students. One of their semester-long assignment is develop their own concept. So this week, actually, students are turning in their menus. We'll see. But they're creating brands like, and week 2 is what's the name of the brand and why. I'm like, holy crap, like half of these are like legit brands that could be franchise, corporate. I'm like, where'd you come up with that? And then like this design and who their consumer is, how they're going to market. I've gotten a teaser on their menus. Like they're super creative on that. And it's not like these are seasoned restaurant people. They've got on this entrepreneurial hat, but when the semester's done, or this week, menu with food costs, pricing, margins, expected product mix. They're going to have a marketing campaign, fully built out decor, what it feels like. And at the end of the semester, they've got to create 3 pitch decks, potential employee, potential customer, potential investor. It's like your 15-second elevator pitch. Like, why should I work for you, eat with you, invest money with you? And I'm I cannot wait. And it's like, it's so energizing. And I've gotten ideas and I already thought about next semester, man. Like, we're not going to watch this stupid video. It sucks. It's 47 minutes. I don't want to watch it either. We're going to do like little meetup, happy hour type thing. Like we're going to cook Argentinian food together, and we're just going to talk about food and beverage, man, and like have a meetup. I think there's so many ways to kind of connect with students, but man, I email them all every week. Like, how you doing? Like this one kid today didn't missed the quiz, got a 0. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to fail, Professor Scott. I mean, you're not going to fail, but don't miss another one. I'm going to give you some extra credit because my goal is for you to get an A, man. So like, anyhow, all that being said, love it. Very, very cool. I'm so happy I agreed to do it.
I mean, that sounds like a class I wish I could go back to school and try out because it sounds pretty cool.
That is good.
How do you, and you kind of talked a little bit about it with some of the, the assignments and the creative side of things, but how do you kind of bridge the gap? Because it feels like hospitality is one of those areas that you can only learn so much about in the classroom, right? And you need kind of some of that hands-on experience. Have you figured out a way to kind of add a little bit more of the hands-on stuff, or at least kind of make recommendations, or how do you go about that?
They've got assignments to go interview, different managers in, traditional restaurant and a hospital environment, contract type stuff, fast food. Next week, they've got a chance to work in 2 different restaurants in Gainesville for like a day in the life to see what it's all about. And so they have unlimited extra credit opportunities to go out and just immerse themselves in restaurants, talking to owners, managers, servers, bartenders, but they have to share their experience in a discussion, and other students have to come. So it's like, I would much rather them be out in these restaurants learning what's going on. We talk a little about the franchise model, though it's kind of not in the core curriculum. And I'm like, I'm sliding it in a little bit here or there, but I said, talk to guys that are franchisees too, because they're restaurant owners. They're not entrepreneurs, they're intrapreneurs, right? So they have an entrepreneurial spirit, but they work within a system. It's a very unique person who's a franchisee, and they don't oftentimes get the credit they deserve of being as much a risk taker as an entrepreneur is, or a founder. So some of them have interviewed franchisees. What do you think of the franchisor support? Like, pretty interesting stuff comes back. So, but yeah, as much as they can be out, like talking and learning, way better than me doing a webinar or lecture for sure.
Yeah, cool. So as you know, WorkStream is all about helping primarily restaurants hire and retain workers. That's kind of like our bread and butter. So I just wanted to ask you, based on your experience, we talked a little bit about the culture side of things, but what other recommendations, suggestions, what other things have you learned when it comes to hiring and retaining hospitality workers?
So, I think in any career, especially the hospitality industry, because I think it's not always looked at as like the preferred career, you've got to create a path. And I know from my own point, I was going to go to law school. I had no intentions of working in the restaurant industry for my career, but somebody saw something in me I didn't see in myself. And so that's kind of been my life's mission in this business. I've always looked to try to find the diamonds in the rough, and there's a lot more diamonds than there is rough. And so if you can articulate a path, at Walk-Ons, we created Blue Chip, where that was identifying them at an early stage and put them on a path to be key into management. Beef O'Brady's very similar platform that we did there. And so, so many people start in this industry and they feel like they should go do something else. And so if you give them a reason to understand, like, hey, this is a real job and here's a career path for you. And even in the corporate office or support center, it's like just talking about, you're not promising, but it's like, hey, man, like I tell people, like, first of all, for you to grow in an organization, you got to replace yourself, right? And that can be unsettling for certain people because they're like, oh my God, if somebody else knows how to do what I do, they're going to get rid of me. I'm like, no, dude, I'm going to promote you, because that means you can develop people, and like you're like my, or you, she, he rock star, because I want people that can develop people. I don't want static. So like, it's not putting you in a position to be uncomfortable, so you can do that. But I think just talking about growth, what it could look like with hard work, dedication, you can be anything, man. I mean, I never thought I'd be the CEO of a restaurant company. No freaking way. But it's like, and then I also say, like, put yourself in positions where you're uncomfortable. Like, do the job nobody else wants to do. Take over the restaurant nobody else wants to go to, and just go crush it. And that's how you build your career. And so I just think having the conversations, and then like saying, Like, what do you want to do? And like, and sometimes it's like, you're only going to work in that business for 2-3 years, but like, you're going to take some of this with you. And if everybody had the chance to work in the hospitality industry for a minute before they went to their other jobs, I'm telling you, it's the most thankless role sometimes to be a server or a bartender, where people just come in and want to poop all over you because they had a bad day. And, it's like, but for those of us that love it, like, it's the challenge to turn that frown upside down and do all the, you know what I mean? So it's a life skill that you could apply to any industry. You have franchisors, franchisees, man. Like, if you're a franchisee, have a relationship with your franchisor, and if you're a franchisor, don't have a relationship with your franchisee. And sometimes it gets broken, right? And it's trust and whatever. And so I always like to say, and a friend of mine coined this little term, but like, when you're having your worst day, remember your first day. Because that day you signed that franchise agreement, that day you became out of that system, you were freaking here and they were here. Everybody was in love. And then, and like 5 years later, I'm just freaking mad at you. Like, go back to like, you didn't sign up to not do a great job. We didn't sign up for you to fail. We didn't sign up together so we wouldn't talk. You got to go back. Like, relationships change. It's not, but don't give up on each other, I guess. If you're the franchisee, don't give up on your franchisor. If you're the franchisor, don't give up on the franchisee, because you need each other more than you think. And if you're having a bad time, pick up the phone and say, hey, like, can we go back to like when we used to like love each other and like see if we get back that magic or something? Because sometimes I think people feel like a relationship's broken and there's nothing else to do. And there's always a way to go back to what was awesome on your first day.
Yeah. I love it. Great advice for marriages as well, I think.
No, yeah, exactly.
You just said applies.
Maybe the first date wasn't a good one. Let's think like the first 5. Let's go back to the first 5. Blend was a really good.
Yeah.
Or the day you said yes, that's a win.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, cool, Scott. I don't want to take up much more of your time, but
I appreciate you having me, man. This is good stuff. I'm happy you're spreading the gospel about this awesome model. And listen, it's team engagement is so different, and how we can continue to like, not just hire, but retain and like engage and find ways to engage socially with the team where they, man, it's so I love what y'all are doing. I love this whole platform. So I'm happy and honored you asked me to join, man.
Thank you for listening to On the Clock. For more info, visit workstream.us/podcast. Until next time, we're clocking out.